Hi, I'm Emmett and I am the Managing Director of Click Above and Click Living. So I'm often asked about whether there's likely to be another housing crisis. In my opinion, the straight answer to that is no. And I explain the logic behind that. Effectively, there's two key considerations when you're looking at the housing crises that have happened in the past and what's caused them, and effectively the way that the UK housing market is structured would present a narrative that would suggest there isn't going to be one. So what are those two things? The first thing is supply and demand. Over the last 10 years, there's been an increase in the shortage of houses within the UK. So effectively, we are not building enough houses, and we haven't done for the best part of 15 to 20 years. And because of that, there is a massive demand. Now that underpins the basics of what is happening in our UK housing economy. We've got planning constraints, we've got all sorts of barriers to entry, and effectively that just means that the housing supply and demand metrics are out. There's too many people, they want houses, they can't necessarily get to buy them, so when they do come on the market, they come on at a higher and more inflated price, right? So that's one metric. The other metric is the one that's an interesting one to study at the moment, because it's the one that is changing, which is the metric to do with liquidity, money that's in the economy, right? So effectively, if you think of money that's in the economy as you go to your bank, you get yourself a mortgage, and how am I able to live? Can I afford that mortgage? And is there a rationale for a bank to lend me the money? That's liquidity. Now, it's the liquidity aspect that is under constraint at the moment in general terms. So what's that doing to the market? Well, you would imagine that it would stymie the market and therefore deflate the market and create a potential downward spiral. After all, costs of living is going up. In talk of inflation, there is also talk of energy crises and so on and so forth. But what that actually does is effectively locks people into their existing homes to stay there, which means that they're less likely to want to move. And if they're less likely to want to move, then that supply and demand metric kicks in. So if you analyse the two and you put them side by side, whilst we've got inflation and whilst we've got higher interest rates coming down the line and we've got affordability issues and so on and so forth, that is going to affect people's lives. That's absolutely going to affect people's lives. But put that into the supply and demand metric, does that mean to say that people are going to be less inclined to move? More than likely. So they're going to stay put. So that will therefore restrict the marketplace again, as I've said. So in short, there you have it. Is there likely to be a housing crisis in 2022? In my opinion, no. Are we likely to see problems within the marketplace or a plateau? Very possible. But if you analyse the market in different segments, the lower end of the market and the sub £450,000 market, that market is very buoyant. You look at the market above that to the 600 to a million, that is got to slow. And when you go into the prime markets and the super prime markets, they are generally moving along in the same kind of tones that they've always moved along in, because there are people that are not reliant on the liquidity issues that we were talking about. If you're going to buy a super prime property, you probably don't need a mortgage. So those markets remain on a continued up.